Let's start with some background. Since from about the 1990s, when the question that has wandered through the minds of economists for years became popular, should we stop producing the penny, there has been many debates on whether it should actually happen. Starting with the Price Rounding Act of 1990, a U.S. representative made the first push on eliminating the penny. However, he failed miserably. In 2001, another U.S. representative made another push to eliminate the penny, and he called it the Legal Tender Modernization Act. And in 2006, he introduced the Currency Overhaul for an Industrious Nation Act, or the Coin Act. Although the bills had popular support from the people, when it went through to Congress, they were all turned down. Thinking in the margin. The starting concept that economists measure when they talk about the extinction of the penny. Economists cannot and without repercussion remove the penny from circulation and stop producing it. When looking at an issue as big as this, economists have to look at opportunity, costs, and benefits, which is called cost-benefit analysis. As you can see in the chart, which shows the unit cost to produce and manufacture the cent, adding up the costs of goods, sales, and distribution all add up to about 2 cents, which is double the face value of the actual cent. This is the main reason there is an argument in the first place to eliminate the penny. Cost-benefit analysis. Looking at cost-benefit analysis involves them studying what the costs are. Opportunity costs, what's the alternative after eliminating the penny. Cost of production, what they lose or gain from the penny's elimination or preservation. And overall cost, what does it cost to remove the penny and how will they go about doing it. In this chart, you can see the unit cost of producing a penny and a nickel, and what it costs each year in millions. Again, for both coins, they are double the face value and have increased over the year. This adds more argument to this topic, and economists wonder what the solution is. These costs in question all stem from marginal cost and marginal benefit, which looks at the cost of producing one penny, how much do you make or lose, and its benefit, whether it'll help or hurt by producing just one more penny. Economists have to look at if the marginal benefit is greater than the marginal cost. This chart shows again the cost to make a penny, but this time I've highlighted the 1 cent line. I did this because, as you can see in the key, this is where the marginal benefit is. On or below the line is the point at which you actually benefit from producing one more penny. Here's an overview of the perspectives most people have so far.
The penny. You probably don't even use it, but it's bringing the economy down. Here's what you need to know. Seigniorage is the difference between the face value of a coin and the production cost of that coin. For the penny, it now costs the US Mint 2.4 cents to make each one. It now has 1.4 negative seigniorage, and this has been increasing since 2006. 2006 was the first year that it cost more than a penny to make a penny. And since then, it's been rising. By 2010, the US government lost $27 million just producing the penny, and in 2011, it lost $60 million. Clearly, this is a problem. So why are we still minting it? One reason is because there's a powerful zinc lobby in Washington. Americans for Common Sense is funded by Jardine Zinc, and Jardine Zinc is a company based in Tennessee that makes all of our penny blanks. Almost every penny you have in your pocket, if you have any pennies in your pocket, started at Jardine Zinc, and they make these penny blanks that are then shipped to the US Mint. The US Mint then strikes them from there and puts Abe Lincoln's face right on there. Many argue that we don't even need the penny anymore. If we got rid of the penny, Jardine Zinc would be out a lot of money. So one of the reasons we still have the penny is because of this powerful lobby in Washington. But another reason is we still love the penny. Polls show that Americans still like the penny, we want the penny around, even though the penny makes no economic sense. Our neighbor to the north, Canada, is getting rid of their penny. In May, they minted their final one, and in February, they're taking it out of circulation completely. This is rather significant for the US because the two economies are very similar. They're the closest country to the US to get rid of its penny. But there is just one problem with that. If we get rid of the penny, we will likely rely more on the nickel. And guess what? It costs more than 11 cents to make every nickel.
Economists now have to look at the quantity supplied and variables to determine if it's worth eliminating or preserving the penny. Because when they look at the quantity supplied in terms of the penny, they now have to balance the supply with the production cost increases. These are the variables: the cost of the material and how much it's going to be produced or supplied each year. This is a huge problem because they can't solve this problem by just reducing the amount of pennies. They have to stop at some point. But prices of the material might keep rising. What will they do? The pie chart here shows the composition of the penny, meaning what it's made out of, but we'll get into why this is important later. After that, they look at the elasticity of the penny to see what course of action to take. This is important because they need to know whether the penny is needed or not, and if it's elastic and penny production costs get too high, they can offer to eliminate it. But if it's inelastic, and no matter how high or low the cost gets, they'll have to keep producing it, causing economists to think of a way to lower production costs, which would add another problem. Here are the costs of zinc and copper prices per pound over the last 4 to 5 years. As you can see, for both prices, they're pretty high compared to a couple years ago, and zinc is even way more than copper, almost double. Remember the pie chart, and that the pennies are almost 100% zinc, obviously the more expensive of the two, which is another reason for eliminating or even changing the penny. Once economists see what effect the penny has on the small scale, they have to look at what it does on the economy as a whole. This is where GDP comes into effect. We know that GDP is gross domestic product, which looks at the final cost of the final good, not the intermediate goods. With the penny, since it doesn't look at the cost of the zinc and the copper to make the penny, it looks at the 1 cent worth product. It makes the GDP worse than it should or could be. Economists have to look at, along with GDP, the penny's value and what its deflation is causing. Because to fix deflation, you want inflation, but too much inflation on an already inflated item causes problems. It's deflating because it costs, as shown before, about 2 cents to make and is only worth 1 cent, so it's losing value. But if we inflate the value of the penny, what happens to the materials to make it? Zinc and copper plants will more than likely increase prices, causing yet another problem. This chart different from others because it shows over the years the deflation of the penny and what its worth was over 100 years ago. Starting almost equal to today's quarter and dropping down to obviously today's penny shows massive deflation. Here is another perspective with a little more detail and an overview of what we've gone over thus far again. Here is another perspective of whether the penny should be eliminated or not.
The cost of a penny is not 1 cent. Economists say every year every American loses $3.65 in wasted counting change. It means $1 billion for the entire country. Some say the government is being penny-wise, pound-foolish.
I have like a jar in my room that I put all the pennies in, and then they've been saving up for probably a few years.
Like I noticed the other day a penny fell on the floor. I didn't bother picking it up.
Pennies in America are hardly heavenly. Everyone seems to have 2 cents about whether to stamp it out and pluck the nickel. Jeff Gore is a physicist from MIT who says keeping the penny defies logic.
Last year it cost 2.4 cents to make every single penny. All right, so there are a lot of better ways to be using the government's money than to be minting a worthless coin.
This year, it costs more money than ever to produce the coin because of the rising cost of metals.
The price is useless, so maybe people are deluding themselves that $4.99 is cheaper than $5, but it's really the same thing. And in the meantime, we have to make tons and tons of pennies every year.
Some economists argue that the penny increases sales by narrowing the price gap between buyers and sellers, but others say the gap is insignificant.
It's a big, horrible waste of time. Although the penny does not facilitate cash transactions, it does slow down those transactions.
Gore says Americans end up losing sales by counting pennies, but retailers are not so sure.
It might actually negatively impact our business. For example, we have a salad that's $6.99. So if we raise it to $7, people might think that's too expensive for a salad.
Economists say the 99-cent marketing trick is a gimmick.
I don't think it will cause inflation. I think the 99-cent pricing model that many merchants use is really a marketing strategy. So I think it's more of a marketing and psychological issue than anything that would cause more inflation.
Canada has just announced it will eliminate its $1 loonie coin by the end of this year. But instead of pushing to eliminate the penny, the Obama administration has given the Treasury more authority to use cheaper metals to cut production costs. The U.S. government said last year taxpayers lost $60 million on the production and distribution of pennies. I'm Yiping Yang, Boston Charter.
The penny adds millions of dollars a year to our national debt and increases the national deficit each year. This is horrible because our national debt is already so massive, it'll take several lifetimes to fix it, if that. And our deficit grows year by year, so it's hard to keep up with that as well. This is why most economists believe it'd prove useful to eliminate the penny. The chart here shows the U.S. debt since 1940. It started pretty bad but slowly decreased over the years and has been pretty stable up into the year 2000. Due to several events, it slowly increased then rapidly up to today. So adding to this problem wouldn't be the smartest idea. Now to match the rising costs of penny production, the federal budget gets affected as well. This is because the federal budget now has to increase to accommodate the rising prices of penny production. However, there's a limit. They can't just keep increasing the budget because that causes budget deficit, which is when spending exceeds the revenue. However, since the penny's cost is increasing, it as usual causes problems again. In this chart here, it shows what budget deficit is and what it's been like over the past 30 years. As you can see, we started crossing into deficit at around 2002, and that widened after 2008, but is now shortening the gap. If the penny were to stay in production, because of the aforementioned reasons, that gap could get wider. Taking a look at a bigger perspective, and that is what other countries have done with their pennies, could help us. Since many other countries over the years have gotten rid of their penny, if economists gather enough data on how other countries have been affected after eliminating the penny, we could find out if it's useful or not. And globalization plays a role in this, since it intertwines nations and helps us better understand them. The penny is just a mess, and it's losing value fast, and the US currency is really weakening. With this happening, there is no telling how badly inflation or deflation could happen, since the penny deals directly with currency. If it continues to stay at 1 cent while the cost of making it rises, it may make our currency very, very weak. When you take a look at these two charts, it shows that for the last couple of years our currency has been pretty stable, and that currently compared to other currencies we're doing maybe a little bit above average. But if the penny got out of control, we could slip and fall deeply below average. The final perspective. When it comes to preservation, there really is nothing we can add from all of that. And for elimination, I would just add that it weakens the dollar because of the mentioned reasons. My opinion is now to eliminate the penny, since the benefits greatly outweigh preserving it. Here's, however, how I think we should go about doing so. I don't think there's one right answer to eliminating the penny, but here's what I think should happen. For starters, stop the production of the penny. Then start getting stores to stop taking it so it loses utility. And after a couple of years, set a deadline and set a month where people can give their pennies to banks, so banks may give them to mints to be melted down into their original materials. A professor at Wake Forest said that rounding things to the nearest cent, e.g. 109 to 110 and 106 to 105, would even out in the end and give consumers only about 1/40th of a penny per transaction. So with the penny gone, although the nickel has the same trouble, it's a more important coin, and the penny's elimination can account for the nickel's loss.